think about how, when we were younger, how very taboo it was to even talk about menopause or to even mention any sort of symptom, hot flashes,
Yeah.
or,
Oh,
facial hair that was, those sort of things were so, I don't know, ridiculed amongst women in particular, also, that now you're going through this whole thing in your life and now you're on the outskirts of society almost.
Hey Flo,
Hey Nikki.
do you have your coffee ready?
Yes, girl, I'm ready. Are you ready?
Yes, let's get into the chat.
Let's get into the chat. Exactly. I feel you.
so wait, let me tell you about last night. Last night was really cold, right? But I'm sleeping in like a nightie. So I go to bed, I'm all snuggled up. First of all, I can't fall asleep. I was going to bed at like 10 p.m., which is early for me. 11 goes,
I know you're a night owl.
11 goes by. I'm like, okay, it's just an hour. Sleep now. 12 o'clock. 1 o'clock. And I'm like, well, here I get all the. I've changed my. I almost went into Afrikaans. I changed my pillows all the ways I could. And I still couldn't sleep. And I'm like, no, man. Then I start getting hot. And I'm like, wat gaan aan nie? Like, am I going through something here? Is something happening that I'm like sweating? And I'm already wearing a nightie. So now the blankets have to come off. And then I can feel it's freaking cold. So it's like, what is happening? Flo, I'm only 37 years old. I know it's not no menopause, no perimenopause. Like, wat gaan aan?
Listen. That was one of the first things for me also when I was like what, 36, 37, 38 there. Where I was also, and I love winter. I love to be snuggly. I love to be warm. I love to be layered. But then suddenly, winter after winter, I was in vests. I was in summer dresses. I was in sleeping with no blankets. So I absolutely get what you're saying, that it's cold, but you feeling hot. And my gosh, did it not send me down a rabbit hole? Because Dr. Google will tell you what you need to know.
Mine is TikTok.
And I went down this Dr. TikTok. I went down this rabbit hole then, only to discover all the sorts of symptoms related to perimenopause in your late 30s. And it's a phrase I never heard of before because, we know about menopause when we were younger, women are going through change of life and all that sort of thing. But perimenopause, I had never heard of.
Me either.
I mean, from where now, We've got so much already on our plate. Like, this is another thing we must deal with. More hormone shifting nonsense. Yo, I was mad even. At some point, I was even angry. I was like, another thing to deal with, another thing to learn about my body. But, yeah. But that's the thing. That's the thing. We learn about our bodies, and it's important that we, know these things so that we are not the generation that has a gap again of saying, where the young women are saying, oh, I wish people told me, and I wish I knew earlier. And, we need to know these things so that we can talk about these things.
Let's be a bit messy, okay? Let's just go there for a couple of seconds. I do wish that somebody would have told me what these hot flashes were, okay?
Girl.
What that heat is, because I'm like, whew, I don't feel it like it's weird. And I'm not going to call it a hot flash, okay? I just get hot for no reason. But it feels like too much, and it's in my heart, like my heart area, and I'm like, oh my god, is this what death is? So why do I have to feel like I'm dying when somebody could have just told me, oh, you know what, at around this age you might get these things, you know? And then I also wonder, like, what else is there? So now I know about insomnia because that's something an
Mm.
aunt of mine also goes through. Then is the heat. But then what are the other symptoms that we need to be looking for or learning about? Like, what did you learn about?
Look, how it started for me. I was, it was just after, I think it was maybe, my son was maybe 4 or 5. And I had started having very irregular menstrual cycles, right? And
Mm.
I was in a panic. I was like, oh Lord, I went through pregnancy test after pregnancy test. I was, stress
No,
levels
ma'am.
were high. No, thank you, ma'am. No, thank you. Stress levels were high. But that was one of my symptoms. My cycle had become very irregular. And after, I think, 3 months, 3 consecutive months of having no period, I was like, something is up here. But that also led me to discover that I actually have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Okay. I didn't know.
Then, yeah, so, then I really dove into this whole new body, um, postnatal body, and
Mm.
starting to and here let me circle back. It was the irregular period, right? My cycle was very, very up and down all the time. But then also a weird, weird thing. I started developing allergies. And I've never in my entire life been allergic to anything, not dust. I mean, yes, everybody's, got a light allergy for dust, you sneeze or whatever. But I was itchy, itchy, itchy all the time. Like
Wow.
started changing my bedding more often. I changed my washing powder. I started wearing different fabrics just to try and figure out what is it, but
Mm.
juck, like, that sensation of
Don't
hair
say
falling
that.
on your skin, or like a little spider is crawling on you.
Mm.
That sort of itch, not even a mosquito bite itch, that, and I discovered there's an actual word for it. It's called formication with an M, like mother.
Okay.
Formication. And then I asked my gynae when I was with her, and I was like, is this a thing? And she said, how are you experiencing these symptoms already? And I was like, what symptoms? Am I in early? And I brought it up. I was like, am I in early menopause? I particularly used those words. And she said, there's actually a transitioning phase before that, and it's called perimenopause. And it was
Mm.
like, girl, what are you telling me now? And that's how it began for me, down just this whole new discovery of this thing that is actually a normal thing that just
Very.
nobody brings up, nobody talks about. It's never been really open and discussed. And like you say, now it's out there on social media. TikTok is full of women talking about their experiences, making funny reels about, even the brain fog. Oh man. For me, I thought my brain fog was trauma related, right? Because I was
Mm.
going through stress. It was during also a time when I was going through a lot of loss in my family. And I really thought it was related to that because that is a symptom of
Yeah.
loss and trauma. But
Yeah.
then I heard that, yes, brain fog in this transitioning phase is a very real symptom. And man, I had to call on all my anxiety management tools to just keep me in check.
Yeah. No.
Oh man, it was rough. It was rough. It was that first 2 years of rediscovering myself
Oh, yeah.
was
No.
tough.
Listen, I'm taking notes because now that you mention that brain fog, the way I don't know words anymore, like I can't speak. Even now, I'm finding it difficult. Like I have to think about the word that I want to say. And sometimes there are words that I want to use, and I'm like, what's that word now again? And I do it quite a lot.
Mm.
And I think it's just because I don't read. You know, let me not put myself. I do read, people. I just don't read
As
a
of
lot. Like that. I don't read fiction, so I'm not escaping in my books. I'm reading non-fiction, and it's heavy stuff. So I'm reading like 2 pages at a time, and the words is not words in our daily language.
Yeah.
So I struggle sometimes to just get to the right word, and I'm like, ugh, and then I just leave it. It's like I'm at that point where I don't care anymore. You know what I'm saying? So let's just know what I'm saying, and we don't need to find the
Or you
exact
do
word.
that, you do that thing where you click into the air. You know the.
I do. You know what's my favorite? I almost sound the word out as if I know what the start even is. I'll be like the la la la.
La,
Then
la,
it's not,
la. I do
you
the
know.
exact same thing. I go through the entire alphabet trying to figure out, I know this word starts with something. So let me just see.
Take notes, because the next time I visit my gynae, I'm gonna be like, listen, this last year, this has been happening. I actually saw on TikTok that even though menopause. So first, let me tell you a fun fact about menopause.
Sure.
So menopause is like you see here, I don't know the word. So my hand, I noticed, doesn't click. I do a circle with my wrist. Menopause is kind of like a coined term or something like that, But menopause is just one moment of lives. So menopause is the moment that the change happened. So the doctors confirmed this moment happened after you didn't have your period for 12 months.
And we always assume that it's a phase, hey?
Yes. So I think they use it sort of as an umbrella term, because why would a doctor even say menopause? Like my doctor's not talking about peri nothing. Okay. So I'm thinking menopause is just a broad word, but perimenopause is the transition, and that transition can start even in your late 30s. So there's no pinpoint that you only see these things in like 50. So I was like, okay, TikTok, but then I do fact check, I'll go research other things, and that is the definition of menopause, is just that one point. And so perimenopause, then this girlie on TikTok, she was like, she had a hysterectomy, and so she started having perimenopause symptoms in her 30s, like she was 36 or 35. And I was like, damn, because she was saying if you have a hysterectomy or you have other reproductive issues, then you might start earlier. And also if you have period earlier. I had my period before 10. Okay. I hate that. Oh, child. So I was like 9 years old, not even knowing what's happening in the world, in my body. I didn't have boobs yet. And there I was getting my period. So a lot of things can make that your perimenopausal symptoms will start earlier. Like, okay, so we're there now. Okay, we're there. So we gotta take notes.
I wonder then, if your transitioning phase begins earlier, does that imply then, does that have a ripple effect on how early your menopause occurs? Because there is the idea, or let's say the school of thought, that menopause happens when you are, let's say, in your 50s, right? 50 to 51.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, let's say your perimenopause transitioning symptoms begins early to mid 30s. Would that then imply that you are inclined to then experience menopause late 40s rather than your 50s, maybe? I wonder.
it's possible then, right? So it's not one size fits all.
Yeah.
It's everybody different. And that's actually something that we need to embrace because we tend to put everything in, especially when it comes to medical stuff. It's like this age group and this whatever the variable is. And stuff happens always at the exception. So you don't know where you fit in, you know?
So
So I'll definitely
ethnicity is a big thing, hey, when it comes to different phases of your life.
exactly. So my surgeon told me because I've one ovary that my, all the things that happen, even though I don't get my period, I still have these eggs, right? And I still ovulate. But once that is done, then the menopause will hit. And since I have only one ovary, it's going to come twice as fast, I'm assuming. And so, it probably makes sense that I'm getting these hot flashes already.
Hmm.
Um, and I wonder when these eggs are gonna be, finished. But oh my goodness, I might be getting menopause like in my 40s, definitely. Lord.
One thing that I am embracing at this age in my 40s, right, is to not even have that little fear of, oh, I'm getting, because I think about how when we were younger, how very taboo it was to even talk about menopause or
Mm,
to even mention any sort of symptom, hot flashes,
yeah.
or,
Oh,
facial hair that was, those sort of things were so, I don't know, ridiculed amongst women in particular, also, that now you're going through this whole thing in your life and now you're on the outskirts of society almost. You're a spinster. Oh,
like your normal body functions. It's like,
normal
why do
body
we
function.
go for normal things? Ash, our society.
No, there's symptoms that, have come up where you really realize this is such a normal thing. I mean, when we spoke, not spoke, but when we posted to our Instagram followers, what are some of the things that they've been experiencing? It's actually quite funny. Not that we want to poke fun at what we are experiencing in our bodies, but it's funny just knowing that these are such regular things that are happening to nearly half the population of women out there, and it's good actually to laugh about it.
Is and you know what I liked most about it is that we could relate.
Yes.
It's not something very different and isolated from this person, and it's like we all go through those things.
Mm.
And I just love that. But can I tell you one symptom that I read about and heard about that I do not want? And God, please, I know I said it out loud. Please don't give it to me now just to teach me a lesson. Lord, help me. But
Let's hear it.
the hair
Oh,
loss, the bald spots. Ik kan niet delen. Ik kan niet delen. I already have enough issues.
I think that's also got a lot to do with genetics. I mean, we always want to isolate things, right? But then we must also remember that genetics play a big role in how our body changes. Like, where some might say, like, I know one of the ladies on Instagram said, um, her weight loss became more challenging as she got older
Mm.
because she's always been very active and she's had a high metabolism, but when she hit her 40s she struggled a lot more, especially in terms of energy and that sort of thing. But then she also realized that that is a thing in her family, genetically, those sort of things do come into play. I know when I look at my aunts, who are now 50, 60, 70 years old, there are certain areas of their body that have not changed, and they've always been really fit. I've got one aunt who was a gymnast when she was younger, but, certain parts of her body looks like you would assume that she doesn't work out. So genetically, we know that we will struggle with some things. Some things might not even differentiate or fluctuate or change or that sort of thing. And it's really just a thing. And I think hair's got a lot also to do with that. I think,
Oh, I must go look. I must go do research.
yeah, just look at the people, look at the ladies in your family, like, do you have a bald spot, auntie?
Let me not out any people, but I have to go make some research, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
When I
You
think
know
about
what?
it,
But mm,
my mom's side of the family, they have a lot of hair, but their hair is thinning,
stunning.
especially the eyebrows. Wat gaan aan my eyebrows?
You know, that's
Happened
also
with my
like, now that you mention it, what I've realized about a lot of older women is they don't have body hair. No hair on their arms, no hair on their legs, no,
really?
you know,
I don't mind that because I don't like hair.
nah, I don't
I
know.
don't like. That
An
would be nice.
interesting, an interesting symptom that I find is very broad on the spectrum is a little bit risque to mention, PG warning to those listening. But some
Okay.
women, in general, the generalized symptom is that you
Mm.
suffer low libido as you go into this perimenopause, menopausal phase. Most of the women that I've spoken to who are 40 and up say the opposite thing. They
Yeah.
say they are now in such a peak passion phase of their life that is very different to when they were younger. And I find that very interesting that,
That is it.
yeah, that the general symptom
I have
would be low libido, but most of the women that we've spoken to, and even on our Instagram post, there have been comments of people saying that no, that, it's much the opposite. I find that very interesting. So I think, like you say, there's no one shoe fits all for this symptom.
mm.
And it's a very wide range of symptoms. Some you might have, some you might not have, because I mean, I guess
And if I can
everybody's
add
body is
something,
different.
like you mentioned earlier about confusing or misdiagnosing some symptoms with trauma
Mm,
symptoms.
mm,
I think we have so many variables that can affect us, right?
mm,
And so everything, plays a role. And sometimes you think it's only this one thing, but maybe it's a combination of things. Like maybe some women's libido do decrease and it's only because of their biological stuff that's happening. Or sometimes it's also the environment.
true.
Like back in the day, I'm not going to say nothing about anybody, okay? All I'm saying is back in the day, what was the situations?
Mm,
And right now, women are very free. They can go out, they can date. Women are in their 40s, 50s dating,
true.
so
True.
that could affect their libido as well. It's the novelty, it's all of that. And then also, whatever other factors may be happening at the same time. So I think that
Exactly.
is really interesting because personally, when I think of my future, I'm not preoccupied with getting old. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It maybe I think my neurodivergence sometimes, also affects the way I think about certain things, obviously. But I don't think about that. Hot flashes are so fun to notice if that's what I'm having. Like just getting that heat is interesting. It's
Mhm.
not something I don't know. Maybe some people have it really bad, like periods. Some women have very easy periods and some women have like the worst. And so you can't really compare your situation with other people.
Mhm.
So I get that. But for me, I am not, feeling like I'm not going to have opportunities as I get older. I'm thinking, you know, you get more confident, you have more freedoms, and you can get more of what you want. So I ain't
I
scared of
think in
no age.
general, also, overall, as much as women are really more vocal about these sort of, discussions, and yes, we are talking more about the phases of our life. We are talking more, and in particular, like, people like Halle Berry, who really speaks openly about perimenopause.
Oh, I'm starting to like her. I'm starting to like her. Oh,
I mean, it's out there, and I think in the past, women were conditioned in such a way to believe that you've got this clock that's running out, So
yeah.
now when you experience certain symptoms, you sort of feel, oh, my time is now running out. Whereas now we have changed the narrative, and we have moved into a generation where we realize that that clock doesn't particularly exist. Yes, there are certain physical changes that you'll go through. Biologically, things will change. But in general, we don't have that fear towards it. We don't have that panic when we realize a certain symptom anymore, because lifestyle has changed. We are able to better manage our stresses, hopefully. We are now also, even women have the freedom to say no. I mean, just in a little chat that me and you had, where you were saying to me, I'm all about the no.
Yeah, all about it. But that raises that thing, because we are at that point where we ask, like, why aren't the moms and the aunties and the grandmas telling us these things? But it's like they come from a generation where, and not because they set the rules, all the women are just living in society where the rules are already made for them.
Yeah.
So where we are lucky, we have, the freedoms and stuff. And the younger people, ugh, how I wish I could redo not my childhood, but another childhood in a happy
Just with
home.
having this sort of,
But the information,
right?
like, damn. But imagine back in the day where it's not always that they didn't want to, it's that they also felt restricted. They
Mm,
couldn't talk about the things, they had to hide, the stuff that was happening
mm,
with them. It's so weird, right? It's like we have to shave the hair from our legs so that nobody sees that we have hair on our legs. But we do have hair on our legs, right? But it's somehow shameful.
yeah.
So now, back in the day, everything about the woman was shameful. She couldn't show anything, so you couldn't really share anything.
Mm,
And if there was a woman who was telling you something, it was secret. It was like, even don't tell people that I'm telling you.
exactly.
So I think with the issue with the generation right above us, I feel so bad for them because they are at that cusp also where they maybe also wish, like we do, that they could have had these discussions, but they still have that ingrained thinking of the women before them. So they're still
Sure.
not shared, But I find like when I create the space, then there's a little sharing going on, but it's not natural, and it's created by the younger ones. So it's very interesting, but I'm starting to feel a little empathy towards those
Mm.
women as well.
I like what you're saying about creating that space. I agree with that because when I talk to women who are 50 and older, and when you pose the question, you do have that little bit of initial apprehension where they are like, oh, why are you asking me this? Or how do I even talk about this? But then the more you coax them, the more you urge them, the
Mm,
more you start using certain terminologies, then
mm,
they find that freedom and that comfortability to start to open up, to say, this was my experience, this is what I went through, my peers at the time when I was in school, this is what happened. So having that comfortable space for women to be in their feminine, to really just be comfortable, relaxed, and to know that it's safe to talk about it, Because I think, again, like you're saying, back then there wasn't the capability, there wasn't the openness, because
Mm.
it all gets back to children should be seen and not heard. Because as
Right?
a young girl, 20, 30 years ago, even 50 years ago, I mean, I'm still in that
Mm.
mindset that if somebody says the 80s, I think 20 years ago. You know,
Yeah.
they
Kan nie deel met hy nie. 10 years ago.
yeah, but I mean, that generation didn't
Mm.
have, especially women. There was nobody, and you know, if we want to get really serious about it, which we don't always want to, there wasn't time for that. There wasn't space for that. You know, people were surviving. You know,
Yes.
there was riots and there was apartheid and there was jobs, and we had to just go on and get by, and your body changing is your body changing, and let's keep it moving, you know? And I
Yes.
think now we have a different society and we are set up differently, which allows us that space where moms are raising girls and boys who are free to ask questions and have those questions answered as honestly as possible.
Oh my God, I just had a breakthrough.
Share,
Like
share.
a few months ago, I was really in my anger, you know,
Mm,
with the sort of gatekeeping, like, why can't you just share? What is it to talk?
mm,
What is it to tell me something that's gonna happen? It's just weird. I was really frustrated, I guess is a better word.
mm.
But now and I also felt like, why is it up to me
Yeah.
to make a change, but that's kind of where we're at. And that's actually a beautiful place to be, because you get to create. And creation is the best energy. Creation is the best frequency that we can be in, because that means you're in your joy, you're in your gratitude, you're in your um,
Absolutely.
enlightenment stuff, that frequency. So, yes, we have to create the spaces. We have to make it safe, because we have the ability to be open.
Mm,
And that is so brave, like, people don't give vulnerability the credit that it needs. It's
mm.
always seen as being weak.
Weak.
But to
Mm.
be vulnerable is to be so strong and to be so brave. And not everybody can just do it willy-nilly. Sometimes it needs to be curated. We need to
Mm.
set the scene. We need to sit down some blankets, make it cozy, make it safe, so that everybody, not just you who it's easy to do it, but for those who it's not so easy,
Mm.
make the space and let them, even if they don't feel like sharing in that moment, have the non-judgmental space where we're not judging, because why are you guys gatekeeping? I could have learned so much already.
Precisely. That also
Yeah.
heals, that also heals that generational gap, hey? Because
Yeah.
once you have those sort of discussions and that discourse between multiple generations, you don't know even if just talking about your period brings up some sort of PTSD in this
Mm.
person, you know? So if
Yeah.
you have it in a safe and vulnerable and comfortable, welcoming space, it also sort of just brings that person right into their inner child to say that I'm okay, you know, I can move this out of my body now.
Oh my God, yes. Because, oh my God, we think, because, TV, I don't know anybody in real life, okay, but I've only seen this on TV where women's moms would give them this moon party or whatever, because she got her.
Lord, did I not, when I was a kid, wish for that?
I don't know if you want to share period stories, but I just think what you said now rings true, because my period wasn't a pleasant thing. I didn't have a party,
Mm.
but maybe the older people, not even the older people, just any women in general, not everyone's first period was this happy and glorious come to
Yeah,
life, womanhood, queen, feminine, whatever. Not everybody's experience is like that.
true.
Please tell me you've had such an experience, 'cause I'd like to know. Okay.
100%, 100%.
So
Not,
maybe when we bring up these stories and we think, oh, this is nice, women coming together. For other people, it's like, oh God, I don't want to talk about this.
yeah.
This is giving me anxiety. This is making me really uncomfortable.
Mm.
So it's also having that grace that, I'm learning a lot right now, okay, about myself. That everybody is not like you. Everybody's story is not like yours.
Yeah.
And everybody don't want to share everything.
Mm.
Um,
And I think
yeah,
also everybody's management around this sort of thing. Like if we think about just talking about the symptoms of this transitional phase and into the actual menopause, the management would also then look different because we always prescribe, doctors will say, change your lifestyle, eat better, sleep
it's-
more, have stress management, you go into hormone therapy. But you also then need to look at this person's existing life,
yeah,
does that sort of management and remedy and treatment and therapy actually work for this person?
is
So I
it
think
feasible?
really we need to make it so intentional for knowing ourselves and knowing our bodies, that we
Yeah,
know what works for us. Even when the doctor does prescribe, you don't want to actually downplay what doctors prescribe to you, but you can also just implement what works for you. And that's what I always say when in particular with the clients that I have for my meditation and my breathing exercises. I always say, do what works for you. If just an example, postnatal, I was on anxiety medication for some time, right? But
mm,
it messed up with my system so much that I had to recognize that this isn't working for me. It may work for someone else, but prescription meds were not, the go-to for me. And I stopped using them and I used other management tools that actually just worked for my lifestyle and for my mental capacity. And that was a better remedy for me to manage my anxiety. And I think with things like your perimenopause symptoms and going into the menopausal stage of life, you also need to really just take stock of yourself. Yes, I know life is hectic and we've got our daily things that we have to go through. We can't always just take a moment to pause and say, this is what's yes and this is what's no. But I think
mm.
as women, we really need to be so intentional about knowing what our body is going through at different points in time. And does this work for me? If I'm not able to sleep enough, what other things can I do in small little dosages that can help me manage this whole thing?
Right. So, Flo, what did you do? Because I know you are doing a lot of self care and you're taking good care of yourself. I see the posts, I see the stories, and I know from our chats. So, let me take out my notebook and my pencil and tell me the things that you do.
Listen, you're gonna get me canceled because you're gonna be telling me that you're gonna be telling me Flo said I must do this.
Okay, not Flo, the
I'm
other
I'm
girl.
I'm
Let
not a
her.
doctor. I'm not a doctor. But just a few things that when I really started, learning more about these phases, I definitely applied it to myself. I didn't generalize in any kind of way. Yes, I did talk to other women to find out how general are these symptoms, right? But I looked at what was comfortable for me. I looked at where I was in my life. I looked at what was going on in my life at the time. So things like changing my diet, was a big deal because it related very much to my insulin resistance, learning about PCOS and how that relates to my body. Because I struggled with weight loss and weight gain for so many years, I knew that that was a definite thing that I needed to change. So I started eating better. And by eating better, I mean I'm basically 80-90% vegetarian. I'll mainly have meat products if I'm maybe going out to a restaurant or so. So I cook
Okay.
more vegetarian meals. Um, I eat more whole foods and raw foods. I intermittent fast a lot more. And obviously because I know that there are different times in the month where those sort of things don't happen to work properly, I don't also restrict myself. So if I'm going through my craving phases and I don't restrict myself. And I know that's not the best thing to do, but I mean, I also know, that that's going to just send me spiraling. If I want a little bit of a biscuit or a cake or a pastry or of some sort, if I refuse myself, 2 weeks from now, I know I'm gonna go on some binge crazy
Yes,
thing.
yes.
So just changing my diet was a big deal for me. And yes, I do struggle with it still, but it's managed. These sort of things I realized in life, there's no one fix for it, and then it's somewhere just reg. It's
Mm.
things that you have to constantly be managing. And I always believe that if you fall off the wagon today, you get back up tomorrow or the day after. I mean, reset and restart as many times as you need to, as long as you keep it moving. Things like exercising more. That
Oh,
was something that I never took seriously in my 20s and maybe early 30s.
mm.
I've never been one to really. When I was a teenager, yes, there was a craze at that time in the early 2000s. I don't know if you remember Billy Blanks and the Tybo.
Yes, the
Oh,
Taibo man.
girl, I was obsessed. I was obsessed. We had VHS tapes of Billy Blanks and his girls. I was there for
Oh,
it. But I mean, during my varsity days, early 30s, it was not particularly, because I walked a lot. I didn't really feel that I needed to be on some gym bunny vibes. But
yeah.
now I almost get withdrawal, if I go more than 3 days a week and I haven't had a 15, 20, 25-minute workout. I lift
Okay.
heavier weights now that I'm older, a thing that I never thought I would do. So just implementing things that sort of seemingly felt like it was not me, if you know what I mean. Those sort of things that
Yeah.
I didn't do when I was younger that I didn't think were part of my character now feel like this is normal for me,
The new normal.
a new normal.
I like
And
that.
yeah, and because I eat better, I don't necessarily take too many extra supplements. I do take like your iron supplements, definitely, because I donate blood often, so I keep that up. Uh,
Mm.
but because my diet is so vegetable rich, let me say, I reduced my supplement intake, but I find that I do things that work for me at different points. If I'm working a lot, if I'm in a high stress phase of work, I'll try to implement small things. Like while I'm working, I would probably hold my weights, or I stand and work and try and get steps in, that sort of thing, to just not be so stagnant and keep my body moving. If I know I'm not going to be sleeping well, I would maybe take an extra supplement for just to manage, but it's really about knowing what works for you at the point of your life. I don't think it's a blanket umbrella this is what you must do at any point in
Mm.
time. I think everybody needs to just work it out for how it works for them. Because not everybody's got the time to gym for 30, 40 minutes a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not a gym girly at all.
But you run.
I like running outside in the beautiful surroundings. I like to look at the tree, look at the sunset. That's why I like to run.
And that in itself is also a good management of it, you know. Nature is a big healer. Getting that
Yeah,
sunshine on your face, on your skin, that vitamin D, that is tops up there.
girl, top of the plane. Yeah, I like that. I like the, idea that we just have to figure out what works for us. And like you said, the big word that I heard was intentional. You have to be intentional about it. And do the best for yourself, take care of yourself. Like that is all. Um
And to always just remember that it's not just you. There's a sister, there's a friend, there's a lady, there's a stranger out there who has been or is, I mean, really know that you're not going through it alone. It can sometimes be that you feel like, it's just me that's stressed out about this, or I'm having such, sometimes the symptoms can be so exaggerated that you really just feel so isolated in the whole experience.
yeah, that is true, and I can just imagine if something is happening to you and you feel like it's embarrassing, you're not Googling that. Okay, you don't even want the computer to know. You just keep that to yourself. And so, I can imagine the loneliness in that also.
Hmm.
But girl, just always think that everybody has it, or everybody knows somebody, or just pretend that they do, and I don't know, I wish we can just not care about what people say, what people think, and we can get there. It's a process, it's a journey.
Process, it's a journey.
Because really, who cares? You have problems, so does everybody else. Let's take notes and help each other out.
Let's take notes and help each other out.
Maybe I don't got that problem, but I have another problem.
Exactly.
Um,
But in essence, it's natural, it is general, it is
lot
supposed
of
to
life.
happen, it is part of the process, it is part of growth, it is part of just the beautiful creation that this femme body is.
Amen. Finger
Amen.
snap, all of it.
Hey, clock it.
Why do I know how to do my fingers like that? Okay, I'm not that old. That's the proof.
That's the proof.
I like old jokes though. I like jokes, but it's like it's not real. I don't mind about getting old. I'm actually excited for 40. But can I tell you why? Because I like rounded off numbers. I don't like this 37, 38. Like, just bring me to the 40, okay? Just let's stay there for a while
Now
until the next.
imagine, it feels so weird for me when I have to say I'm 41. Like that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound like a number that should be said out loud, hey?
I wouldn't even say that. I'll just say 40 until I'm at a number that satisfies me again. 45. I'm not doing this 1, 2, 3 shit.
Transitioning into rounded off numbers.
Yes, because you know what? For me, is after 35, you're 40. I
Exactly.
don't care in between. There is no difference. Okay, split here.
Oh, Nikki, you kill me. This
But
is good. This is good.
spring. I don't know. South Africa is very much like seasonal. like my mood is affected by the seasons in this country. So spring is in the air and I just feel very excited about stuff. So I can't wait. I
The
can't
new
wait. So
beginning.
yes, let's do a next chat very soon.
I'm excited. I'm excited for what's to come. And we'll chat soon, girl.
Yeah. All right, darling.
All right, darling.
Bye.
Bye.